Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of round 6 of the 2018 Tata Steel tournament played on Friday the 19th of January. It was an exciting round. We have a new tournament leader, but before I'll show you the results and the standings, let's look at the game between Wei Yi, the 18-year-old prodigy from China, and the defending champion Wesley So from the United States of America. It was the most exciting game of the round. In the background there you see Peter Svidler, who finished his game, who finished his interviews and then went back into the playing area to have a look at this game. Let's get into it. Wei Yi is white and opened knight f3. d5 from Wesley So, e3, knight f6, c4, e6 and knight c3. And what opening is this? Well, it's really a queen's gambit without a white pawn on d4. I mean, that is what Grandmaster van Kampen called it. Officially it's part of the English opening, but it's at least quite unusual. So took on c4, bishop takes, a6 and b3. Also Kramnik and Karjakin have played this setup with white. Here b5, kicking the bishop is the normal move, the most natural move. And Wesley So instead played the other pawn, c5. And in the live broadcast, Grandmasters van Kampen and Hansen were talking about, could it be that Wesley So wanted to provoke his young opponent to play aggressively and then get complications. We'll see later that white indeed starts to play quite aggressively, but from Wesley So's interview after the game, it was not a provocation from him. He probably just thought c5 was the best move here. Bishop b2 from Wei Yi, knight c6, queen c2, bishop e7, a3, b6, and there comes g4. Wesley So said afterwards that he had totally forgotten about this idea. Then he said it's maybe not that strong as Black's king is still uncastled, so it's different with the king on g8, then an attack on the king side is much stronger. But then he also said it turned out to be quite surprisingly strong, as white will get some sort of a bind with g5 and knight e4. He called it a sort of Maroczy bind. The Maroczy bind, we see that often in the Sicilian opening, when white gets pawns on e4 and c4 with a black pawn on d6. Of course this is completely different, but interesting to hear Wesley So's thoughts. After g4 you cannot take that pawn because we have a nice queen fork, queen e4 forks both knights, and you cannot play one of the knights to e5 to protect the other one because that square is attacked twice by white. So after g4 Wesley So played h6, and in the broadcast the Grandmasters were looking at g5, h takes g5, knight takes g5, and then Eric Hansen said knight e5 followed by bishop b7, and that's okay for black. Instead of g5, Wei Yi chose rook g1, b5 from So, kicking the bishop, bishop back to e2, bishop b7, developing that piece. It's a nice diagonal for that bishop. g5, h takes, knight takes, and black has to be careful. White has an idea of knight takes f7, and after king takes f7 there could be queen g6, protected by the rook on g1. Looks quite dangerous. And Wesley So found a nice defense. He played rook h6, covering the g6 square. There's no bishop on c1 that may be bothering that rook, so why not defend g6 this way? Knight ce4 was played by Wei Yi, opening up the scope of the bishop on b2 and attacking the c5 pawn with two pieces. This is the position that's so-called a Maroczy bind type of position. Here the move knight a5 is the best move in the position. One of the ideas is to take on e4. Knight takes e4, and if then White takes back on e4. There is knight takes b3, deflecting the queen. If the queen takes, the bishop will take the knight that's unprotected on e4. So knight a5 is a good move, but Wesley So decided to take on e4, knight takes e4. The knight was taken back, and now there's lots of pawns hanging. g7 is hanging, c5 is hanging, h2 is hanging. An interesting option instead of knight takes e4 would have been knight takes f7. King takes f7, rook takes g7. Grandmaster van Kampen called this a Wei Yi type of move, but it's probably unnecessary. As said, Wei Yi just took back on e4 with those pawns hanging. g6 was played immediately by Wesley So, and the funny thing here was that in the broadcast the grandmasters thought that f6 had been played, and they were very surprised to see that move. But g6 was played, knight takes c5, bishop takes, queen takes, and rook takes. Number of pieces went off the board. a4 from Wei Yi, and here in the studio the grandmasters were looking at b4 as a reply, but Wesley So found the best move and played queen h4. He's going to attack on the king side, attack White's king. Rook f1, it's a forced move. Of course black was threatening to take on f2. Rook c8, bringing that rook into the game, putting it on the same file as White's queen. Queen b6, attacking the bishop, and bishop a8 is not good because of queen takes a6, and the b5 pawn will also fall. So Wesley So protected the bishop with knight d8, and a takes b5. Wesley So said in this interview afterwards that this looks good for White, and the computer agrees. So went bishop g2. He's going all out against White's f-pawn. And White cannot castle, of course, because the rook on c8 is there. White found a nice move, rook a4. A nice rook lift attacking the black queen. Queen h3. And here bishop a3 was played, and in the analysis afterwards So and Wei Yi found that this was not the best move, and the computer agrees. B takes a6 is White's best move, and he's winning here. But it's a very complicated position. Bishop a3 looks logical. White wants to attack Black's king as well. Here bishop takes f1 is not good, because after queen d6 there will be a mate on e7. That's the advantage of bishop a3. So after bishop a3, So could not take on f1, he played rook h1. And if you now play queen d6, with that same idea of checkmating, then there is a beautiful move, which Wei Yi had seen, and probably Wesley So as well. Rook c1 check is the move here, deflecting the bishop on a3. You have to take, and then bishop takes f1. And it is black who wins this game. So after rook h1, you should not play queen d6, and Wei Yi, even though he had very little time left, found it. He found the best move, b takes a6. And what should White do now? Those pawns on the queen side look very dangerous. Well, you cannot play rook takes f1 check, because after bishop takes f1, queen d6, it is White who will win here. Another move you cannot play is taking with the bishop on f1, because then queen b5 check is a good move, including the queen into the defense with a check. Knight c6, bishop takes, and black is in big trouble. In the live broadcast they gave this variation, queen f5, queen takes, g takes, and White is going to play king e2 and bishop g2, and with two bishops and two connected passed pawns, White has a very strong position here. White is actually winning. So what to do after b takes a6? Well, Wesley So said he found some tricks. He played queen h8, and that is threatening queen a1, followed by checkmate. So it's now Wei Yi to find a solution for this, and he didn't have much time. d4 is the best move. Wei Yi didn't find it. He played rook d4. Also looks logical, bringing the rook into the attack and stopping the queen from coming into a1. If you go back with the queen, that's not good, because now there's a forced checkmate on the board. Rook takes d8, very nice move. Rook takes, bishop b5 check, rook d7, queen b8, checkmate. Wesley So played bishop takes f1, and if Wei Yi wants, he has an immediate draw with rook takes d8 check, rook takes, queen b5 check, rook d7, queen b8 check, rook back and queen back, and we have a move repetition. But Wei Yi did not want to draw. After bishop takes f1, he played queen b5 check. Knight interposes. Wei Yi took back on f1. Rook takes, king takes, queen h1 check, king e2, and queen h5 check. And here Grandmaster van Kampen in the live broadcast said, Wesley So is finding resources that I thought were not available anymore. What a turnaround. And indeed, Wesley So has turned his game around. He is now better. The point is that if white takes on h5, and he did, then Wesley So has the beautiful intermediate move knight takes d4 check, winning an exchange. E takes, g takes queen, and we suddenly have an endgame with an extra exchange for black. Of course, white still has 2 pawns compensation, and these queenside pawns still look dangerous, supported by the bishop. But let's see how Wesley So plays this. b4 from Wei Yi, and this is a very nice move, very instructive. Rook b8 stops white advancing the pawns any further, because if you push the a pawn, there is rook a8, and you cannot defend that pawn anymore. Rook b8, very nice move. King f3 from Wei Yi. He has to eliminate the h-pawn, that's a very dangerous pawn. King d7, bringing the king closer to help the rook defending the queenside pawns. King g3, king c6, b5 check, giving a pawn to activate the bishop. This bishop was not doing anything. He needs to get that bishop activated. Wesley So took with the rook, bishop c5, and a very nice move, rook b2. A variation given in the broadcast was now king h4, then rook takes d2, king takes h5, rook takes f2, and here Van Kampen showed a nice variation. He said, white might think I have d5 check with an attack on the rook, but of course that bishop is hanging. It doesn't work. It doesn't work either after a7. If white wants to play that first, then the king has to go to b7, but d5 still doesn't work because of rook f5 check. It just picks up that pawn. After rook b2, Wei Yi played a7, king b7, and the king has to stay with the a-pawn. So the question is, can white draw this endgame of bishop against rook with a white pawn on a7, supported by that bishop on c5? Well, the answer is no. If you play king h4, rook takes d2, king h5, rook takes f2, that doesn't work. And what happened in the game was d5 from Wei Yi, but Wesley So took that pawn, bishop e3, trying to set up some sort of a fortress, rook b4, and then d4. That was Wei Yi's idea, to set up this formation, give up the a-pawn, hopefully pick up the h-pawn, and see if this is a fortress for white. But after rook b1, the move played by Wesley So, which is the 41st move, so there was no more time pressure at this moment, Wei Yi resigned, because white is not even going to win the h-pawn. After king h4, there is rook h1 check, and black will preserve the h-pawn, will pick up the a-pawn, will bring the king closer, and this is an easy technical task for a super grandmaster like Wesley So. He started with 4 draws, but he has won his last 2 games and he comes closer to the top of the ranking. Let's look at the results. Ho Yifan got her second draw in the tournament, Karjakin got his 6th draw in the tournament. Karana and Matlakov was also a draw. And poor Adiban lost after more than 80 moves against Shakhyar Mamedjarov, who's taking the lead, the sole lead in the tournament. We saw Wei Yi against Wesley So, and we had 3 more draws. Giri and Anand played a very quick draw. Kramnik and Jones played a very eventful game where Kramnik sacrificed his queen, but it turned out in the end to be a draw. And Peter Svidler played a very exciting game against Magnus Carlsen. Both players had a lot of fun in the analysis afterwards, but also that game ended in a draw. The standings, as I said, we have a new leader. Shakhyar Mamedjarov has won 3 games and is leading now with 4.5 out of 6. 3 players share second place, Anand, Giri and So. 2 players half a point behind that, Kramnik and Carlsen, and we have 4 players on 50%. Karjakin, Jones, Matlakov and Svidler. Wei Yi's on 2.5, Karana on 2, and Adiban and Ho have both lost 4 games and made 2 draws. Round 7 will be played on Saturday the 20th of January, and I will be here afterwards to tell you what happens. Hope you liked this video on round 6. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment. And if you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box of this video. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.